Money FM 89.3, best of breakfast. Mind your business, only on Money FM 89.3.
Yes, it's time to mind your business on The Breakfast Show with me, Audrey Seek. And today we're talking about something that affects half the world's population. For far too long, menopause has been wrapped in silence, stigma, and misunderstanding, especially here in Asia. And on today's episode, we're spotlighting someone who's working to change that. Grace O's journey spans music, finance, and now health tech. She started as a violin prodigy, rose to the top ranks of finance, and is now on a mission to reshape how we talk about and care for women's midlife health. She's the founder of Soul, short for Spring of Life, and she's bringing evidence-based, culturally attuned support to people navigating menopause through tech, community, and compassion. So let's welcome her to the show. Good morning, Grace.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. So let's start with the big picture now, Grace. How would you describe the current state of menopause awareness and care, especially here in Asia? Are conversations changing, or is it still mostly taboo and hush-hush today?
Oh, definitely changing. I think compared to 5 years ago, globally, I think the conversation around menopause has been changing a lot. And in Asia and also in Singapore, it's definitely changing. But I think culturally it's still viewed as a subject that's a taboo, and people don't necessarily openly talk about it because it's associated with aging. People don't really want to be known as the aged woman, and people don't want to really talk loudly about it because they think it's just a natural phase in life, so why bother?
So why do you think menopause and women's midlife health more broadly has been so overlooked then for so long, especially in the health and wellness world? Is it more of women doing it to ourselves that we are not talking about it?
No, I think generally, not just menopause, but women's health in general has been viewed as something that's not necessarily a niche subject, right? Because if you think about women's health, what is really women's health? You know, usually people think it's gynecological health, like something related to certain organs that females have. So the medical community and the public didn't think that it's necessary to invest a lot of money and funding into investigating what it means for women's brain, women's cardiovascular health, or any other things like bone health, right? So a lot of research has been just in general health, I would say, and not necessarily geared toward women-specific health. And now more and more research is getting done, and people realize that, hey, women are actually quite different than men.
Yeah.
You know, hormones actually dictate a lot of changes in your body, not just your female organs, but even your brain. So that, I think, is the reason why there hasn't been a lot of funding into women's health. So in general, women's health gets less than 5% of total R&D funding globally, right? So that's a shocking number. And even within that, you know, most of that actually goes to cancer, like gynecological cancers, not necessarily other things. So other than cancers and fertility, basically you are left with other things like menopause, autoimmune conditions that are actually more affecting women, and cardiovascular health that's also quite differentiated, you know, for women versus men, osteoporosis and also brain health, Alzheimer's.
Okay, so your background, Grace, is pretty extraordinary. What a journey you've had. Now a founder of a menopause care startup. But before you pivoted into women's health, you've gone through many, many stages of life. You were a violinist. You were a top-ranked equity analyst. Can you walk us through your journey and what ultimately sparked your decision to build Soul?
I began this journey, and actually around the time when I had a second child, I realized that I was actually living by someone else's script almost half of my life. And that kind of began when I was about 9 years old in Korea. And my parents thought that, you know, playing the violin seriously, like classical music, was a path to success and prestige for a girl. So, they meant very well, but I had no interest in music and no talent. But what I had was that I was working very hard, right, to please them. So about 10 years, actually, from 9 to 19, I was playing the violin pretty seriously, which means that, you're going through competitions and, recitals and concerts. And I ended up actually leaving Korea, my family, to attend the Juilliard Pre-College in New York by myself when I was a teenager. And I really struggled with mental health back then because, it's not something that I chose. And, it's very difficult to kind of, understand why you have to go through this, kind of live by someone else's script for like 10 years of your teenage life, right? So I tried to break away from it many times, but it's very difficult to do that. I don't know if you probably know that a lot of Asian kids probably can share same experiences as I do have. It's very difficult to break away from the family expectations, whether you're a girl or a boy, right? And there are certain expectations you have to meet, and it's very difficult to break away from them. Mm-hmm. But finally, after 10 years, I did break away from it. And by then, I just didn't care anymore because I just couldn't carry on with something that I just didn't have passion for. So ever since then, I think everything actually worked out very well. I ended up going to liberal arts school, Dartmouth College in the U.S., and then I began my finance career on Wall Street at Citigroup in the United States. And everything worked very well. And I came back to Korea and Hong Kong, actually Hong Kong first and Korea, working as a senior analyst at CLSA. And everything seemed to work very well until I had to make a tough choice for my family when I had my first child. Because my husband had an international career, he's not Korean, he's Japanese American, and it became quite clear that I was expected to kind of give up my career. Mm-hmm. Nobody spoke to me that way. It was not like loud and clear, but the expectation was there.
It was implied,
right?
yes.
Yes. So I ended up moving from Seoul to New York and then Hong Kong to eventually Singapore 3 years ago, largely because what I thought was the best for my family, basically. So then I realized through all my journeys, wow, I've been living by somebody else's script for almost half of my life. And I really knew that, just talking to many women around me, a lot of women actually can resonate with this and experience something similar. And that's when I really realized that, I want to work for women. I didn't know what specific area. And I began researching what areas I can help women. And I realized, wow, perimenopause and menopause, this whole midlife space, there are a lot of different needs, starting from symptoms in, like physical and mental health, but also a lot of people actually have difficulty finding their own meaning in life, and they might have some relationship issues. So I thought, wow, this is a very, sweet spot to actually investigate further and help women. And I was really shocked to find that there's very little research out there on women's health and then also women's specific issues. And that's when I realized that I got to really collaborate with influential people in the medical space, but also other areas in like public advocacy to really make a change.
Wow. All right. So a long journey to get you to where you are today. And now here we are talking about the spring of life or soul. What exactly does soul offer? How is your approach different from the typical medical model of menopause care?
Yeah. So we actually look at menopause as a holistic care. And it's not just about, your conventional medicine, like let's say hormone therapy or antidepressants you can take from your doctors. But we try to take care of women holistically, meaning that, your lifestyle really has to change. And you might also want to consider your supplements and other things if that's the way that you want to go. We also want to take care of you in terms of what is the meaning of your life? How can I actually live my life in line with my purpose? And also spiritually, how can I grow? So all of these things. So what we do is that we work with many different professionals in different fields, and then we try to create evidence-based guidance. So we take a lot of guidance from menopause societies in the world, especially the major ones. And also lifestyle medicine. There's a field called lifestyle medicine that really focuses on lifestyle changes. So we also get evidence from them. And also we gain evidence from other things like complementary therapies. And we try to, basically we build this whole platform and the solutions with the professionals in Asia and then abroad, with the women in Asia in mind.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Every woman's experience with menopause is different, right? We're all unique. So how does Soul tailor itself to different users' needs, whether it's based on, genetics, culture here in Asia, or lifestyle?
Yeah. So during onboarding, you are going to be asked questions about what symptoms are bothering you, right? And then what kinds of health conditions you might have, and things like, what medications or supplements you might be taking, and health history, right? And after a quick survey, so we have suggestions of what kind of treatments that you can actually think about. And then also we'll present very short reports such as, wellness blueprint, the things that you can actually try every day to actually make a change in your life, and also a health report, that has kind of like your family history and also your health conditions and medication, things like that. And then you can take that snapshot along with your symptom trends to your doctor. Okay. So you actually end up saving a lot of time because the doctors, let's face it, right? Doctors are so busy. They don't have a lot of time. And then you don't want to really waste their time talking about something that, that's kind of not that important, right? So you want to do the homework before you go. And that's the whole point of this app and also our platform. We want to work with key professionals in Asia, right? So we need their help and we collaborate with them. We have actually interviewed like 10 different practitioners in Singapore alone. And then we also interviewed other professionals abroad to create the best content that's evidence-based, and everything's medically reviewed. So you don't have to worry about, okay, should I rely on ChatGPT for biased information, or, we can rely on something that's already medically reviewed and already follows, the best guidelines by international communities.
All right. So we also saw a stat that really jumped out. 67% of women aged 45 and above in APAC say menopause affects their work. But fewer than 30% of companies have supportive policies in place. What's your take on this? And, should we be working more closely with insurers or companies to close this gap?
Absolutely. I think we need all the collaboration we need because, as we talked about, menopause has been a taboo subject, and also especially in Asia, I think, compared to Western societies, people do still think, I would rather not talk about it kind of, they have that kind of view. So it's important to actually bring it up and say, normalize the conversation just like mental health 10 years ago. It's okay to go through that phase, but it's not okay to seek help because most of the women do not necessarily seek medical help. They actually self-medicate, meaning that they go through different websites and social media pages, and then they actually take supplements on their own. But there's a danger on that because, you don't know what kind of interaction you might have with the supplements or medications you're taking.
Okay. Well, Grace, before we let you go, we are celebrating Singapore's 60th birthday this year. SG60, a huge milestone. You being based here and building something meaningful here in Singapore, what does this milestone mean to you? And what's your hope for the next decade, for Singapore and for change makers like yourself?
Yeah, I'm very excited to be in Singapore at this point in time. I mean, Singapore has impressed me in so many different ways. And I feel like, as a Korean living abroad, I feel like, there are so many things that we can actually learn from Singapore. And longevity is one area, for example, right? Singapore government has spent so much money on longevity, and there has been a lot of awareness of that. And there are a lot of, good ecosystems here working on that. And I think, for SG60, I think definitely, this is something I want to celebrate as well with my company's initiatives. We do a lot of community initiatives with the conferences in April and also monthly meetups to celebrate this phase in life, which is second spring, right? Second spring of life, which is a very important phase to intervene early so that you don't have to have a chronic illnesses in the future.
Yes, the second spring of life. And what a powerful reminder that menopause does not have to be a quiet struggle. It can be a time of strength and clarity and reinvention. Grace O, thank you so much for joining us, founder of Soul, that's SOL, Spring of Life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep it here on Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.